we will resume. So good afternoon to everyone. Friends, we have successfully reached, with God's grace, to the last session of this 5-day textual study program of the famous Dasasloki of Bhagavad Pada. We are indeed grateful to Professor Srinivasan, former principal of Mylapore College, who has been a live presence in the academia of Sanskrit studies and philosophy. Almost every Indian philosophy conference, and these days even in IPC sessions, he is present. We are extremely happy to have scholars, particularly Sanskrit scholars, coming to the fold of Indian philosophers. And as well as Professor Srinivas and myself, we have been working together in Sri Vishnu Mohan Foundation, a foundation which is committed to the upheaval of Vedanta studies. And Sri Sadguru Jnanananda Saraswati is one who has finally made a synthesis of the virtues of all the traditions of Vedanta into one single form. There is Bhakti, there is Jnana, and there is Karma. Professor Srinivas is known to me from various aspects, and he has been a live presence in Sri Vishnu Mohan Foundation these days through a forum through which he is continuing his scholarly renditions to the community at large. So I'll have a word or two with you towards the close, and it is time to listen to the preceptor. Over to Professor Srinivas.
Thank you, ma'am. Om Yasya prasadat mukopi vavaduko bhijayate bhashya bhavagya vikhyatah sadgurum pranamamyaham panditanam cha rajanam shastre ratnakaropamam balapurvam gurum vande subramanyabhidam muda shruti smriti purananam alayam karunalayam namami bhagavatpadam shankaram lokashankaram sahana vavatu sahanau bhunaktu sahavidyam karavavahai तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहैः ओम शांति 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 ओम न जागरण न स्वप्न को न सुषुप्ति न विश्वो न वा तेजसः प्राज्ञको वा अविद्यात्मकत्वात् त्रयाणां तुरीयः तदेको वसिष्ठः शिवः केवलोऽहम्. Now Bhagavad Pada has presented the first 3 verses as the Tvampadartha and the next 3 verses as Tatpadartha, and the 7th and 8th and 9th, these 3 verses including 10th, they are presenting what is the conclusion. That is how we have to arrive at when these two are discussed. Tatpadartha and Tvampadartha are discussed. And when Tatpadartha and Tvampadartha, in the technical parlance, cleanse Shodhana, when Tatpadartha Shodhana and Tvampadartha Shodhana, that is, when the Vachyartha have been detached from them, when the pure meaning or the Lakshyartha alone have been taken, we get pure consciousness. Now the question, whether the pure consciousness, is it enough? Whether the pure consciousness will be sufficient to give the meaning of identity, or what will be the nature of the pure consciousness? Say, technically, the pure conscious means it does not have a Vedaka Pramana, that is, differentiating characteristics. When you have to say two things are different, we are not going to discuss what is difference and all those things, but bare minimum 1 or 2 points. When two things are to be differentiated, or when you have to define two things are different, generally what is required is a differentiating or distinction, a differentiating characteristic. This differentiating characteristic is called a Vedaka Dharma. That is a differentiating characteristic, and that characteristic has to be presented by a valid knowledge, Vedaka Pramana. That is one thing. And another thing, when two things are to be different, they must have independent existence. Anya anadhina sthitikatvam. That also is another characteristic. Anya anadhina sthitikatvam. Say, for example, mud and pot. When you say mud and pot is the result of mud, mud is the cause, pot is the effect. But without mud, pot cannot exist. Pot depends on mud for its existence. Hence, pot becomes adhina under mud. Whereas mud can be independent. Mud is independent of pot. So you can say mud is different from pot, but pot is not different from mud. But it is not identical also. That's why they define it as ananya. It cannot be defined either as different or non-different, but it is different as that which cannot be defined as different, only that much. So this is how we proceed. Tadananyatvam, that also is discussed in a Brahma Sutra, Tadananyatvam Aramana Sabdadibhyaha. There's a very famous adhikarana called Aramana Adhikarana. And now this is the characteristic. So Bheda, when you have to say Veda, two things which we want to define as two different things must be independent of each other in their existence. And then there must be a distinction or a differentiating characteristic, which also must be known through valid knowledge. But when we finally come to the Lakshyartha of Tattpada and Tvampadartha, when the Sodhana is done, not on the Vachyartha level. Vachyartha level is physical meaning. Physical meanings, God and the individuals, individual jiva, not soul. Individual jiva with all his physical characteristics. Definitely both of them cannot be one and the same. So differentiating, they are different, but with the level of Lakshya, they are not different. This is what we know. But the Purvapakshin does not stop here. You may be saying they are different, they are not different, and all these things. But where will you attach these three states of what is called the Jiva undergoes? The Jagrat state, Swapna, and Sushupti. These three are three important characteristics. These three are three important stages: Jagrat Avastha, Swapna Avastha, and Sushupti Avastha. These three avasthas are there. These three avasthas, where will Purvapakshinas, where will you attach these three avasthas? These three avasthas does not mean simply for Jiva also. These three avasthas are there for God also. God also had got Jagrat, Swapna, and Sushupti, but we don't speak of Jagrat, Swapna, and Sushupti. With the level of God, we speak of macrocosmic level. That is the Sthula avastha of macrocosmic level, which is called Virat, and the Sukshma avastha at the macrocosmic level, which is called Hiranyagarbha, and then of course Ishvara. So thus, at the macrocosmic level also, these three avasthas are there. At the microcosmic level also, these three avasthas are there. Since these three avasthas, these three avasthas are associated with the Jiva. That is, they are the characteristic of Atman. It is not that these three avasthas are totally different. These three avasthas are associated with Jiva, and then we cannot dispense with them. We cannot simply dispense that the Atman does not undergo these avasthas. These avasthas are illusory. Like that, they cannot be dismissed. Purvapakshin says, even if Atman were to be shining, self-luminous, and all those things, still the avasthas are to be associated with Atman, not just with what is called any Jada aspect, or to be dismissed as illusory. What will happen? If we dismiss them as illusory, simply we will what is called these divisions. These divisions don't escape, don't what is called, they don't exist. They are what is called illusory. Like that, if you were to say, then all the states, everything would be what is called, would have to be stated as dreams. And everything with dreams means all our experience will be physically dreams. Even the Jagrat avastha, etc., we will not be able to explain. All those things will be, we have to simply dismiss them as dreams. So, how will you explain? As long as these avasthas are there, as long as these avasthas are very much there, very much what is called real, as long as these avasthas are very much associated with Atman, these avasthas can serve as the Vedaka Dharma, because the avasthas are independent. Avasthas belong to each and every individual. As these avasthas, these experiences, and the latent impressions which are the result of these avasthas, they happen to be different. And since these are all coming under our experience, it is valid experience, anubhava pramana. It is a valid experience. That experience happened to be pramana. Hence, this dharma can be taken to be what is called a differentiating characteristic of Atman. Hence, Atman can be accepted to be different. If Atmans are different, if Jivas are different, correspondingly, the Jiva will be different from the cosmic soul also. That is Jagat Karana. So, Jivatma and Jagat Karana Paramatma must be different. As long as these avasthas are there, they must be accepted to be different, and the difference will be there. And you cannot say Atman is only one. Atman is one Atman which is pervasive, etc., etc. That cannot hold good. This is the general situation. This is the objection proposed by the Purvapakshi, or this is general experience. All the people, the theorists or the philosophers who subscribe to the concept, or who subscribe to the concept of the doctrine of what is called reality, realism, everything is existing, that is non-illusory nature of the world, etc. Those people who subscribe to these things, it is called Pratikarma Vyavastha also. Not in this Avastha doctrine, but another doctrine called Pratikarma Vyavastha. That is, we have to explain the individual karma of each and every individual. That is, every individual performs his own karma, and accordingly they undergo their own sukha and dukkha. This distinct individuality and individual experiences. So pratikarma, prati jivam prati, their karma, that must be specifically designated as marked belonging to that individual only, and there shall not be any confusion regarding that particular thing. In the same way, the avasthas also have to be earmarked for each and every individual, especially. As long as the avasthas are individually marked, the Atma also will be different. This is what the problem taken up by the Purvapakshi. Then, of course, this is not a very big problem. And only thing is, we have to need the explanation, proper explanation, that we have to understand only that much. Okay. The answer is very simple. In Aitareya Upanishad, it has been quotation has been given. Essentially, when we deal with what is called other Vedic philosophers, answer is given from Vedic quotations. So in Aitareya Upanishad, Tasya Traya Avasataha Traya Swapnaha. So all the three states are discussed to be Swapanas. Since all the three states happen to be Swapana, the question which the Purvapakshi proposed, it may result, everything will be the state of what is called dream. Everything may have to be accepted as a state similar to the dream. So if everything were to be dream, then everything will be what is called lose its validity, that is it's the reality and things like that. That's what he has proposed. There is no problem at all, because everything is considered to be dream only. Specifically, Upanishad said, he has said. But then he may ask, what about the question, if everything were to be dream, everything is getting reduced to illusion, what about regular experience? And that's question. So that is the answer is dealt with in almost all what is the Advaitic works. Here Shankara gives the basic idea, and the basic idea is developed. So there is no problem. Just because the problem that they may be reduced to illusion, etc., the Atman need not be assigned, or the Jivatman need not be taken to undergo all these three avasthas, or all these three avasthas belong to him. What will happen the problem? Say, for example, na jagrat, na swapnaha, na prajnakova, na vishwaha, na va taijasaha. That is, na jagrat, na swapnaha, na sushuptihi. I don't undergo these three avasthas, these three states. There is no experience in these three states, nor I become Vishwa, Taijasa, and Prajna. So the person who undergoes three experiences are called Vishwa, Taijasa, and Prajna. So neither I undergo the experience, nor I become the person, the soul who undergoes these experiences, who is experiencing. So it is not the person who is experiencing these avasthas, nor these avasthas are attached to me. This is what he has said. So what are these three avasthas? Who is undergoing these experiences? How these avasthas are come to be associated with what is called the Atman? how the person becomes experiencer of these three avasthas. So when Sankara has used the terminologies have to be elaborated. It is not reading too much of material into these verses. Sankara simply uses these three terminologies. So the terminologies are Jagrat, Swapna and Sushupti. Then you use the three terminologies Jagrat, Swapna and Sushupti as the three stages. Because on the basis of these three stages, the Purva wants to say that the Atman is different from each other, different amongst each other. Hence, there is no identity. So not only these three terms, Sankara uses Vishwa and Taijasa and Prajna. Vishwa, Taijasa and Prajna are the three people who are experiencing these three stages. So Sankara simply uses these three stages on the names, all six names. Why? Avidyatmakatvat. Because everything is avidya. So these stages belong, these names are the stages, they belong to the level of avidya, not to the level of Atman. These belong to the level of avidya, that is, this Jagrat, Swapna and Sushupti, Vishwatejasa Prajna, all these things belong to avidya and they don't belong to Atman because avidya is distinct from Atman and they don't belong to Atman, they belong to the level of avidya. So what happens for Atman? How will Atman remains Turiya? So as Atman remains Turiya, these are three stages. Three stages pertain to avidya. Atman is away from and beyond Turiya avidya, so he becomes Turiya. Thus, the Atman is Turiya, not pertain to, not tainted by, not bound by these three. Hence, the question of what is called these Jivatman and Paramatman being pure consciousness is not affected. Tadeko Vasishta Shiva Kevaloham. That's how we have said. Now we have to understand how Jagrat, Swapna, and Sushupti, Vishwa, Taijasa, and Pragya, these are different things. What is Jagrat? What is Swapna? See, all these things are due to external adjuncts, as we know. The external adjunct is, here comes the what is called while understanding. Avidya is the basic adjunct. When avidya, you take it as a basic adjunct, avidya has got first one aspect. That aspect is Jagat Karanatva. That avidya in its aspect as causalhood, that is Ishvara, that Taittiriya Upanishad starts like this. Tasmad vai tasmad atmana akasa sambhutaha. Tasmad ye tasmad. Tasmad, that is that Brahman which is referred to in the beginning. Brahma vidapnoti param. That is the original commencement of the second chapter of Taittiriya Upanishad. Brahma with the one who knows Brahman gets the supreme status. That Brahman, that pure Brahman, that is Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. But that Brahma cannot be the cause of the world. Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma, that Brahman, which is of the, as people say, existence, knowledge, bliss, absolute, that Brahman, that being it becomes Ishvara. How does it becomes Ishvara? Because of the association of avidya. Let us take the word avidya. There are many different opinions, whether it is avidya, Maya, or what is Maya, relationship between avidya and Maya. That's all totally entirely what is called different areas. There are different because Indro Maya Bhipuru Iyate, whether Maya is many or one, avidya is one or many, like that. So there are different opinions, but let it be. Basically, let us take it as avidya because that opinion also is there. So avidya is there. When avidya gets associated with Brahman, that Brahman is still untainted and avidya is pure. In that aspect, pure avidya, it serves as the cause of the world. It serves as the cause of the world. But avidya has got three gunas, sattva, rajas, and tamas. So when the avidya serves as the cause of the world with the three gunas, always three gunas are not going to be in equilibrium. At one time, the avidya sattva will be predominant, and another time rajoguna will be predominant, and another time tamoguna will be predominant. So what happens when these three gunas are predominant? One guna is predominant. Then it becomes the area of Puranas. A particular guna is predominant, then that becomes the area of the Puranas. So when the Rajaguna is predominant, that becomes a creative aspect or that becomes a creator. So that Brahman with avidya alone, this avidya is called Kasal avidya. This avidya creates the responsible for the creation of the universe. So this particular avidya, which is the causal avidya, when it is getting associated with the Brahman with the Rajoguna aspect, other two gunas, only one guna alone will not work. All the three gunas have to be there. So when the Rajoguna aspect becomes predominant, that is called Brahma. So this Advaitic Brahman or Nirguna Brahman is called Brahman. Brahman is a neutral gender word, whereas creator God is called Brahma. He is Chaturmukha Brahma. It is a masculine gender word. So there is a difference in Sanskrit gender. Brahma, masculine gender, is one of the Trinity. Brahman, neuter gender, is Nirguna Brahman of Advaita. Okay. This Brahman is used, of course, by all the philosophers, but Advaita didn't say it Nirguna. Only that's the difference. And when Sattva is predominant, that godhood becomes Vishnu and responsible for maintenance, Palana, protection. And when Tamoguna is predominant, he becomes Rudra, that is Samhara. He is responsible for Pralaya. So thus we have got three gods, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva or Rudra, the trinity of our pantheon. These three gunas are there. There is one another concept called Hiranyagarbha. Puranas use the word Hiranyagarbha. Advaitic parlance also use the word Hiranyagarbha. What is the difference between Brahma and Brahman? Brahma gets associated with the creative aspect of avidya. The creative aspect of avidya, and that avidya is responsible for creation of panchabhutas, unquintuplicated, apanchikrita panchamahabhuta. So Brahma, from Brahma, when the creation starts, apanchikrita panchamahabhuta comes, and when the panchamahabhutas get quintuplicated, that is when they get panchikarana. As long as the bhutas remain purely individual, that is Prithvi, Ap, Tejo, Vayu, Akasa, these five bhutas remain as independent five bhutas, they become Sukshma. They are, remember, Sukshma does not mean atomic or infinitesimal. Sukshma means subtle, beyond our knowledge, which cannot be comprehended. So Sukshma does not mean atomic or infinitesimal, small, etc. Sukshma is beyond our knowledge. That is the reference we have to know. So they remain Sukshma. Sukshma means from them objects cannot come. The objects of Bhuta cannot come. So they are not responsible for that. So when these things have to act from Bhuta, when the objects, Bhautika objects, when from them the physical objects have come, they have to mix with each other. The mixing of the five Bhutas, they get physical, what is called Bhautika. Bhautika object or the physical objects emanate from these five Bhutas. So that is the cause of the quintuplication. Generally, it is presented as, all the students of Advaita will know, the Bhutas are divided into two first. And when the Bhutas are divided into two halves, one half is further divided into four equal parts. That is, one half will remain as a half, another half will remain as one fourth of the second half. That will be 1/8 of the total. So each 1/8 is mixed with other. Say, for example, if you take Akasa, the Akasa, 50% of Akasa will remain, and 12.5% of each other four Bhutas. That is 12.5 from Vayu, 12.5 from Tejas, 12.5 from Up, 12.5 from Prithvi. So all the other four Bhutas make up 50%, Akasa itself 50%. So totally it becomes 100%, 10%. But now Akasa is not just pure Akasa. Akasa has been made, all the other four Bhutas also have entered into Akasa, with Akasa making one full. So it is called in Sanskrit language, Apanchi, the Apancha Pancha. That is, originally it was not five. Now it has been made into five. Since it has been made into five, that which has made into, that is a suffix called E, Panchi. When you say Panchi, a not five has been made into five. That which has been made into five, that is called like that. That is a suffix, grammatical suffix. So Panchi Karana, that is called making into five, what we call, we generally render it in English as quintuplication. This sort of quintuplication takes place. Quintuplication is responsible for all the creations, all the Bhautika objects, etc. to come out of it. And now the Sukshma Jivas also, that is the Sukshma Sharira, subtle body or astral body, whatever way we call it, that body. And that body is not differentiated individually. Originally, it remains as a simple conglomerate. as total. So Samashti Sukshma Sharira Abhimani is Hiranyagarbha. Samashti Sukshma Sharira Abhimani is Hiranyagarbha. He is the Mahatattva of Advaita. Remember the terminologies, because the terminologies are used. Why we call it Shaddarsana? Shaddarsanas have got Vedas and Puranas as their common sources, but their interpretations are different. Mahatattva of Sankhya will be slightly different, whereas Mahatattva of Advaita will be like this. That is the Samashti Sukshma. Samashti Sukshma Sarira, because in Sankhya philosophy, the Purusha is entirely different. The Jada Tattva or the world or the Prapancha which evolves. Prapancha evolves from Prakriti and that remains as the Jada Tattva, that remains as the inert and insentient world, whereas Purusha Tattva, na Prakriti, na Vikriti Purushaha. Purusha Tattva remains totally different. And now what happens when the individual evolves and when the individual mind is there, the Purusha Tattva reflects in the individual. That reflection is there in the mind. So when there is a reflection, there is a mix-up of, as in Advaita, there is a mix-up of Jada Tattva, that is namely mind, and Purusha Tattva, namely consciousness. This mix-up is responsible for Jiva Tattva. In this way, this mix-up is there, but essentially the evolution is two independent. Purusha Tattva is unevolving, Jada Tattva is evolving, they remain two independent things. Whereas there they don't accept Panchikarana. Whereas in Vedanta, the doctrine of Panchikarana is there. So Jada Tattva also is evolving, but Purusha Tattva also, along with their body formation, etc., is getting the Saptadasakam Lingam. So the 17 elements go into the body of Sukshma Sarira. So all these things get mixed up. So this sort of evolution is there. That evolution, mix-up of evolution, so all the jivas, that is Sukshma Sariras, together they form the Samashti. Samashti means total. They form a total one. It is like parasites, not individually, not yet differentiated. So individual, totally they remain as one. That Samashti Stula Abhimani is called Hiranyagarbha. So it is at the level of macrocosmic creation. So the macrocosmic creation takes place, and then from the Panchikirta Panchamaha, Panchikirta Sukshma Bhutas, from them the world evolves, they become Panchikirta Stula Mahabhutas, grass body. That grass body is called Virat. So now you have at the macrocosmic level, Virat. Virat is the Abhimani of Samashti Stula, the whole world, the grass world, Samashti Stula, that is the Virat. And Hiranyagarbha is the Abhimani of Samashti Sukshma. Virat is presented as Vishwarupa. That is in the 11th Adhyaya, the 10th Adhyaya, Vibhuti Yoga of Bhagavad Gita, 11th Adhyaya, Vishwarupa Darsana Yoga, etc. It is a physical presentation of Virat Sharira. Whatever way the painter or the poet, etc., whatever way they imagine, whatever way characteristic of dhyana is seeing the whole world, whole universe as not representing, as forming part of Lord Vishnu. So we Vishwarupa iti dhyanam. We think the whole universe is as Vishwa. That's why the first name starts with Vishwam Vishnu. So the very word is, first word is Vishwam Vishnu. Vishnu is Vishwam, the whole universe. That's why Shankara interprets this word Vishwam not as a proper noun, as a pronoun. So the Sahasranama starts with Vishwam as pronoun. Vishwam is a pronoun. That is all. All is Vishnu. Only that much. Of course, it can take as an individual name also. Shankara gives that interpretation too. But it is Vishwam is a pronoun. The whole is Vishnu. Not independent, individual, this particular aspect or that particular aspect. Because pronoun stands for noun. So pronoun stands for all the things. So Vishwam Vishnu. Then Vashatkaraha. That starts with Yajna and all those things. Okay. This is how Virat, the whole universe, is presented. That whole universe becomes macrocosmic level. So the evolution at the level of, or the creation at the level of macrocosmic level is Ishvara, who is the ultimate cause of everything, who is the ultimate creator everything, who has got avidya, that is the causal avidya as his adjunct. He is Ishvara. Then comes the Sukshma Abhimani, Samashti Sthula Sukshma Abhimani, Hiranyagarbha. Then comes Samashti Sthula Abhimani, that is Virat. That is the three people or three gods at the macrocosmic level. And then at the microcosmic level, when the jiva starts, we will go from what is called from the lowest to the higher. That will be understood easier. Here comes Jagrat Avastha. Jagrat is the one where we equate ourselves or where we are able to see ourselves, where we interact with others, where things seem to be under control. Say, we seem to produce everything for ourselves. We want things, we imagine things, but in Swapna, this sort of, that is always remember, Swapna we interpret, we see, we understand from Jagrat standpoint only, not within the Swapna standpoint. We don't discuss Swapna from within the Swapna standpoint. That's the problem. That's why Gaudavada says, whatever you call, refer to about Swapna, that gets contradicted in Jagrat. And there is absolutely no different distinction in state between Jagrat and Swapna. Both of them seem perfectly equal. That's why in the definition and description of Jagrat and Swapna, Mandukya Upanishad does not differentiate both of them. They simply say Ekona Vimshati Mukaha, Saptangaha, all the limbs and characteristic, etc. They seem to be there. Just because Jagrat we have got sense organs, and in Swapna sense organs remain dormant. They merge. They don't the act there in the Swapna state. That does not mean we what is called see things in Swapna with our eyes closed and hear things with our ears closed. There also we see things only through our eyes and hear things only through our ears. Ears and eyes seem to function there. Whatever may be the nature of the ear, whatever may be the nature of the sound, whatever may be the nature of the thing, but when you look at them, they appear exactly like Jagrat only. Okay, that's something different, but they on the face of it, they appear both of them equal or similar. So Jagrat has got three aspects. The first aspect is Kasal Avidya. Without Avidya, nothing is going to happen. But that Kasal Avidya alone is not enough. Because if it were to be Kasal Avidya, then what happens? We may become God. Kasal Avidya, anyone who is having Kasal Avidya alone as an adjunct must be God. So you have got this Avidya, and apart from Avidya, you have got Antakarana. The Antakarana is the individuating aspect which differentiates a jiva from other jivas. So this Antakarana is there, and after Antakarana, you have got Stula Sharira and Indriyas. So we seem to work with our association of outside world through the Indriyas, through the sense organs. So sense organs also simultaneously work there. So we work through sense organs. So all these things. That is Stula Sharira, the grass body. There is the Abhimana. We understand grass body as I. We understand grass body as I. Identity of grass body with us. That is there very much. Stula Sharira, and then Antakarana, Indriyas, and then of course Bhakya Prapancha also is there. All these things, Bhakya Prapancha Anubhava takes place very much. So since with this since there is a Bhakya Prapancha Anubhava, this is called Jagrat. In this way, Jagrat is being presented or described. Now, what we say, of course, mere insentient world alone, insentient things alone cannot work. There should be identity with, or there should be association with consciousness. In the Chandogya Upanishad, in the previous one of the verses, we have seen Anena Jivena Atmana. That is when the Sat created, the Sat principle created the whole world and created everything, it decided, let me enter into this body. Anena Jivena Atmana Anupravisya. Atmana, in the form of Atman, in the form of Jivatman. Let me enter into this world in the form of Jivatman, in the fourth verse. In the Sankhya, while discussing this, let me enter into this body in the form of Jivatman, and let me do Nama Rupa Vyakarana. Let me deal with all the external things of the world, and let me give name and form to them. I mean, let me have all these things, let me handle those things. So the Jivatman who is working within the body is none but this Paramatman or the Supreme Soul, which has entered into in the form of Jivatma. So Jivatma and Paramatma are not two different things, but this Jivatma has entered into this body. So now what happens? This Jivatma, which is entering into this body, Vishati, wish to enter. That root is called wish. So he has entered into Stula Sharira. As he is entering into Stula Sharira, this Jivatma who has entered into Sthula Sarira, he is called Vishwa. The word Vishwa is the name given to the Jagrad Abhimani. Vishwa is the name given to Jagrat Abhimani. He is called Vishwa because he has entered into. Vish has got another meaning also. Vish means Vishal Vyaptau. Vishnu. It comes from the word Vyapti. So Vish can have the meaning of Vyapti also, that is permeation or pervasion. So this Atma has pervaded this body. As he has pervaded this body, the consciousness is a pervasive one. So in that sense, pervasive one, or he has entered in both senses, the word Vishwa can be used. So he is given a name, one who has been pervaded by, or one who has been permeated by, or one who has entered into. So this way, the Vishwa means with Atman or with external parts. That part is called Vishwa. Now we can understand this Stula Sharira used to be what is called understood or used to be taken as me and my. So this understanding of Stula Sarira as I, me, etc. that has to be there. Aham Manushyaha. That sort of adhyasa should be there. Without Aham Manushyaha, with all the adhyasas, not only Aham Manushyaha, Aham Vidyarthi, I am a student, Aham Balaha, I am a child, Aham Shishuhu, normally Shishu will not say. So Aham Yuva, I am a young man, Aham Vriddhaha, I am an old man. This sort of adhyasa should be there. Not only that, I am fat, but normally we don't say I am fat, we say I am obese, I am emacia, that is I am thin, I am lean. All these things we say, that is the physical, when the physical body is lean, I lean. Then alone you can go to a doctor that there is some problem with me. You don't say there is some problem with my body. If you go and say, doctor, there is some problem with my body, doctor may say this may not be the proper clinic for you. There may be a different clinic. You have to consult some other doctor. So like that, only when this adhyasa is there, the doctors can what is called attend to us. That adhyasa also is essential required for the worldly activities. So it starts with the adhyasa, or it starts with the identity and superimposition from the body level. So this becomes Vishwa or this becomes Jagrat. Now what happens when you go to Swapna? When you go to Swapna, Swapna can have different, that is dream. It can have different reasons, it can have different explanations, etc. But technically, that is in the philosophical parlance, what is Jagrat, what is Swapna? The definition is very simple. There are two types of results. That is Sukha Dukkha. Results means experience of pain and pleasure. One level of experience, pain and pleasure, we call it physical. Another level of pain and pleasure, we take it as vasanas, latent impressions. So when you have got pain and pleasure, physical pain and pleasure, for practical understanding and for all our practical convenience and discussion, we take it as physical. When you take this physical pain and pleasure, the cause for this physical pain and pleasure is Jagrat Bhoga Pradam Karma. The karma that is responsible for giving you the of Swapna, other results of Swapna. So Swapna also is due to karma and Jagrata also is due to karma. So karma both at the Jagrata level and at the karma level. Sorry, at the Swapna level. At the Jagrata level, it is Jagrat karma. At the Swapna level, it is Swapna karma. When the Jagrat karma gets awakened, when the Swapna karma awakened, when the Jagrat karma gets dormant. So Jagrat Bhoga Prada Karmoparame. Uparame means withdraw, cease, they cease. So when the karmas become latent, when the karmas become merged, or when the karmas withdraw, that is, it is no longer time for enjoyment of Jagrat karma. Then Swapna Bodha karma gets Udbodha, that is kindled. Remember, when the Jagrat Bhoga Pradam karma get withdraw, it does not automatically mean Swapna. Because if you are lucky enough, you can directly get deep sleep also. There is no need for Swapna at all. So you cannot say everyone will go to deep sleep only after getting the state of Swapna from Jagrat. From Jagrat, it can be directly to deep sleep, or from deep sleep, it can directly be the waking state. All the three states one need not go in a particular order. It all, which karma is awakened, only that much. So when you are not sufficient enough to get a deep sleep, sufficient enough, lucky enough to get a deep sleep, Jagrat Bhoga Pradam Karma gets open, and then you are awake, or sometimes in dream, sometimes in deep sleep. So these three states you get what is called, they have got different states also, even within Jagrat. When a beautiful class is going on, say in fact, the home work from home is a beautiful thing. When we are sleeping, it may not be known. We can open your tablets, PC, etc., and then we can just what is called a dosa, isn't it? It can happen at any time, not only in the when work from home, but it can happen in the classes too. How? Even within Jagrat, we have got Jagrat Swapna, Jagrat Sushupti, etc. Thus, too much alert or half alert or not alert, not much alert. Like that, the based on our alertness, the Jagrat, because when you are not much alert, you are not able to remember, our experiences are not good, and we are not able to remember our experience. Based on these things, we have to go into further divisions of all these states like that. But that is further going into. Okay, now when the Jagrat karmas are see what is called withdraw, and the Swapna Bhoga Pradam karma, what is called wakes up, what happens? The Swapna Bhoga Pradam karma is not sufficient enough to retain our abhimana or identity with the physical body. No longer we get identity with the physical body, no longer we say I am. Whatever happens to the physical body, if there is pain, pleasure, etc., we are not able to aware of. We are not aware of those things. So there is no abhimana, no attachment, no identity with the physical body. So there remains only avidya, there remains only antakarana. Not only that, because physical body is not attached, the physical sense organs also they become dormant. They merge into their causal avidya. They merge into their cause avidya. So all physical elements they don't work. Everything work only through latent impressions. The impressions get manifest. So through impressions, it is the world of impressions. So through the world of impressions, we work. But what sort of impressions, what sort of dream I should have, we can't, we don't know. That's why we say the dreams become, we can give so many explanations. All the explanations are not discussed. In the sense they don't deny possible, because it seems to be having its own logic. Hence, any explanation is possible. So now what happens? Generally, they say, let us have a karma. Swapana bhogam pradam karma. That is the karma. Because the Upanishads say, this, he creates a world of his own. Na tatra rathaha, rathayogaha, panthanaha. There is no chariot, there is no road, there is no horses, but he creates a chariot, he creates a horses to be yoked, and he creates a road also where to drive the chariot, and sahi karta, he becomes the soul who sees the dream. He is the creator. He creates all the dream sequences. He creates all the dream products, and he seems to enjoy it like that. So this is how the dream is presented. Now you have got Jagrat Bhoga Pradam Karma. You have got Swapana Bhoga Pradam Karma. In the Swapana Bhoga Pradam Karma, what happens? There is no identity with the physical body. There is identity with Antakarana. There is identity with Avidya. And there is identity with what is called the latent impressions. There is no sense organs or body. Now remember the point to be noted. In the Jagrat state, we have got Sthula Sarira, Antakarana, Indriyas. In the Swapna stage, body, physical body, and Antakarana, physical body and sense organs are withdrawn. So there is no anuvritti of physical body and sense organs. That is the point to be noted here. Antakarana and avidya, they continue. But physical body and sense organs, they don't continue. There is vyavritti. Vyavritti means it is not permeating or continuous one. It is at one stage alone. At the level of Stula alone, physical body and sense organs remain. At the level of Sukshma, physical body and Stula, the physical body and sense organs, they don't remain. But Antakarana, it remains in all the three stages. And Avidya, it remains, there is Antakarana and Avidya, they remain in both stages. We come to Sushupti. What is the stage of Sushupti? Where Jagrat Bhoga Pradam Karma and Swapna Bhoga Pradam Karma, both of them withdraw. So when both of them withdraw, there is no karma at all. Since there is no karma at all, correspondingly, there is no sukha, correspondingly, there is no experience of sukha and dukkha. So no physical pain, no physical pleasure. So all the people experience pleasure only, bliss only. There is uniform bliss because it is not due to karma. Since it is not due to karma, since it is the manifestation of natural bliss, it is there. So that is the stage of Sushupti. There is no Antakarana, no identity with Antakarana, no identity with what is called all the vasanas and everything. So that becomes Antakarana is there, but Antakarana will remain in the latent impression form. So Antakarana and Avidya, they remain in the latent impression form. If the Antakarana is not accepted in a latent impression form, when he gets up the next day, he will not be able to recognize himself I. Everybody, everything will be a new I and everything will be a new experience that will be a difficult. So in order to explain the continuity, Antakarana is accepted to be latent form. That's why we don't get the word I. That's why when we say, we don't get the word I am aware of ignorance. I am aware of nothing. There is no individual object which is you are not aware of. So you are not aware of particular ignorance. You are aware of in general. Gadham mudoham asam. That is, I slept well. I don't know anything. You can simply say, I don't know anything. That's a general experience that alone is possible. In this way, you have got the continuity of avidya. You have got non-continuity of other things. Body at one level alone, and body and the antakarana at 3 levels, antakarana, grass antakarana at 2 levels, and latent antakarana at 1 level, and other things in one stage are not in other stage like that. So this sort of anuvritti is vyavritti is there. That's why we say Atman is anuvritta. Atma is anuvritta in all the 4 stages. Because even when these things, avidya is not there, they will cite the example of samadhi. When the yogis go into samadhi, in deep sleep, we have the idea, Gadham Mudoham Asam. I slept well, I don't know anything. But in samadhi, I don't know anything will not be there. That is, ignorance is not, because it is samadhi. It is not experience. It is nirvikalpa, savikalpa, and all those things, let it be there. But there the bliss alone will be experienced or whatever it is, depending on the nature of the samadhi. But the ignorance is not the experience. Ignorance becomes latent or it becomes dormant. So this consciousness, this experience, unless this experience is there, unless you accept the experience, if you say everything, nidra is only what is called tamo vritti. Nidra is only a tamo vritti, and that vritti nothing exists. Next morning when you get up, you say it is called sushupta, the suptotita paramarsa, the recollection of one who has got up from the deep sleep. What happens in the case of suptotita paramarsa? He says, I slept well, I did not know anything. I may be the recollection with the latent antakarana, but it is past tense. Remember, in the deep sleep, we don't get the idea, I am sleeping well, I am sleeping nicely, I am sleeping happily. This adverb cannot be attached to sleep. You cannot even say, I sleep. You cannot even say, I experience sleep. I experience happiness. Nyayam, not there. Jnanam, there. So in the Triputi, Jnanam alone is there. Jnata and Nyayam are not there. So what happens? You must have had the experience of the happiness, bliss, as well as ignorance. So otherwise, if you have not had this experience, the next day you would not have been able to recollect. Because it is a past tense. Past tense means experience, recollection. Recollection would not have happened without a physical present experience. So we assume the experience must have been there. And the experience is undifferentiated. So if it is an undifferentiated experience, that must transcend, that must be permanent. So the experience is there in Jagrada Avastha, the experience is there in Swapna Avastha, the experience is there in Sushupti Avastha, and the experience must be there transcending these 3 avasthas also. So the experience must be accepted to be transcendental. There is a beautiful Sanskrit word, I mean Tamil word for calling transcendental. We call it, of course, please permit me to use this Tamil word. because I know only Tamil. That's why I don't know other languages. I cannot. It is not that it does not exist in other languages. Every language may have these concepts. Definitely, they will be having. The only thing is I am not aware of. So in Tamil, we call it Kadavul. The God is referred to as Kadavul. Kadavul is a concept having two independent words, Kada and Ul. Kada means transcending. So it is transcending spatially and temporally. That is, it is transcend everything, transcends all objects also. That is matter. It transcends the matter. It is beyond all the theory of causation. It is not bound by the theory of causation. It is not bound by any object. It is temporally and spatially also not bound. So it is beyond everything. But it remains within. Ul means inner, inside. Ul, it remains inner. It is antaryami, remaining within, permeating within, that is what is called pervading everywhere. It activates everything. Without its activation, that is being discussed in the second, I mean, not Kadavul is discussed, but the concept is discussed as rain is responsible for the growth of all sorts of crops. That is even for good crops like paddy, etc., and other grass, etc., which you don't want. Sometimes they all the weeds are plucked and then they are thrown away. If the weeds are allowed there along with the regular crops, they may take all the manure and other things. Then the regular crops may not, that is the crops which you require may not grow. So always weeding out unwanted weeds. So, but the rain, just because these people have planted the paddy, so I must manure only the paddy. Rain does not think like that. It just pours equally for both. In the same way, God is equal for all. He is not differentiating between good and bad. So a person, if his mentality, if his tendency were to be that, so he becomes like that one. So in this way, know what happens. Everything is permeated. That's how the word transcendental and immanent. So he is both transcendental and immanent, and he is within and activating everything by his presence, not physical as an intercessor. By his presence, he is activating everything. So in this way, as a transcendental and immanent principle, he is Anuvritta, he is existing in all the states. So that is considered to be Turiya. Turiya means one who remains transcend. Remember, he is not the fourth state. If you call it as the fourth state, he remains in the fourth state. It may remain like that, as if he is not existing in the first three, or as if not after Turiya. So what happens? Turiya means transcending the three remaining. So he remains in all the states. So he becomes Anuvritta, available in all the states, transcending also, not only in these three states, transcending these three states, available in all the states too. So that is the Turiya. In this way, the Atma or the conscious principle is available in all the states, within these three states, available in all the states, but all these three states, which are the result of avidya, why they are the result of avidya? They are available in only one particular state and not in the other states. Since they become restricted, vyavritta, parichinna, avidyatmakatvat, parichinnatvat, they are not nitya. They are not what is called continuous ones. So what happens? How can Atma be these three states? How can Atma be differentiated, distinguished, characterized by these three states? Neither Supreme Soul nor the individual soul can be characterized by these states. So there is absolutely no problem by the question posed by Purvapachin. So avidyatmakatvat, because they are avidya, trayanam avidyatmakatvat, all the three states, be at macrocosmic level or at the microcosmic level, whatever be the level, they are avidya, made up of avidya only. They belong to the period of avidya only, and they don't transcend and cross avidya. They don't enter into the area of sentience or consciousness, and they don't disturb the conscious principle. So conscious principle remain untainted. Tad ekaha, it remains ekaha. These avasthas don't disturb it, and the conscious principle does not become multiplicity. There is no multiple conscious principles. Ekaha, it remains only one. Avasishtaha. Since these avidya principles are not permanent, at the level of jnana, when the jnana dawns, they have to go out. So the conscious principle alone will remain avasishtaha. And that is, since it is not destructible, since it is not non-eternal, Shivaha, that is auspicious, Mangala Surupaha, Kevalaha. which cannot be differentiated, characterized at all. That principle is amide, says Shankara to his sort of the teacher. Na Jagrat. So how can I differentiate myself as Jagrat principle? Na Swapnakaha, nor the dream. Na Sushuptihi, nor the deep sleep. Na Vishwaha, I am not Vishwa. Nava Taijasaha, I am not Taijasa. Because it is essentially the Latin principle of mind. Mind is considered to be Taijasa Mantakaranam. The Satoguna of Tejas is more predominant there, they say. So the Antakarana is also the dreams, the person, the dreamer is called Tejasa. Na Pragyakova, Prakarshena Agnaha, Gadam Mudoha Masam. I have been what is called more of ignorance alone. He experiences ignorance alone there, even though he experiences himself, still the ignorance alone. So Prakarshena Agnaha, Pragyakova, both aspects. Since he experiences ignorance alone, he is called Pragnya, Prakarshena Agnya, essentially ignorant. Or the knowledge alone is there, ignorance also is there, but the knowledge, these two principles are there, his consciousness and knowledge, sorry, consciousness and ignorance. So if you look at it from conscious principle, Prakarshena Jnaha, he is a great knower, especially knower. Hence he Prajnaha, Prajna eva Prajnaha. Prajna and Prajna, both of them are one and the same. So Prajnaha. But that Prajna is associated with Antakarana, dormant Antakarana. Because the Antakarana comes later. It is not liberation. It is not totally free. Hence I cannot be called a Prajna also. Even though practically Prajna, really I am not. Avidyatma, because all these states are avidyatmakatva trayanam. These three states are avidyatmakatva. They are made up of avidya. Avidya, atma. Atma means swarupam. They are coming from avidya. Tatvat is ablative. That is the reason. Fifth case, giving the reason why. Avidyatma, since they happen to be avidya. Turiyaha, I am the transcendental one, crossing all the three. Remaining after that also, not only permeating these three, transcending the three too. So Turiyaha is not exactly fourth. Transcending these three and permeating these three, remaining as the fourth state also. So Turiyaha, remaining beyond two. Tadeko Vasishta Shiva Kevaloham. This is how Shankara has differentiated it. Now, there is actually, it gives rise to another problem. It does not stop because Purvapakshins are not so easy to what is called concede their viewpoints. They will continue to pose more and more problems. And the one more problem which they have proposed is this: Api Vyapakatva Hitatva Prayoga Swatasiddha Bhava Ananyasrayatva Jagattuchametat Samastam Tadanyate Tadeko Vasishtaha Shiva Kevaloham. Now, avidya, avidya, still it is a question from the basis of appearance. It is not an actual question. It is a question all these things we have presented, but that limitation seems to be there very much. Because limitation is practically experienced. When we experience the practical limitations, how can we reject? How can we say no to these limitations? So what happens, avidya? It seems to conceal Atman, veil Atman, and then seems to differentiate. So if that were to be case, then what happens? Atma appears to with Sharira Traya, that is Stula Sukshma Sharira. So accordingly, Sharira Dharmas appear to be on Atman. When all these things are there, the Janma, Marana, Sukha, Dukkha, and then all these things appear. That is, all these things are Sharira Dharmas. The birth and death, etc., they belong to Sharira. Sukha, Dukkha, etc., become to Sharira. They appear to be on Atman. So we don't say my body is born. We don't say my body. Even if a person were to be Jivan Mukta, he cannot say my body is born on such and such a day, something like that. Everybody say I am born, I am sick, something like that. So how to get away from this? So in order to get away from this particular point, one has to get the association or feeling of detachment from the body. So it is called detachment from the body. So dehat vimukti. So this particular thing, dehat vimukti, is very much required. And in order to get dehat vimukti, for that you have to get avidya, because everything is avidyaka. So from avidya. So for example, in order to get away from avidya, you must have vidya. But vidya does not create anything. When you get knowledge, say even in the world, when you get knowledge, knowledge is not enough. Knowledge is not the end in itself. Say normally a student is reading, what are you reading? Then why are you reading this? If they ask, that is the fad today, that is the demand, that is what everybody wants. This particular subject is to be studied. There is a demand for this, there is a demand for this job, etc. So he studies that particular course so that he will get a good job which is in the demand, market demand. So the study is for to meet some demand. Study is not just for the sake of knowledge. Study is to meet some demand. So only when the demand is there, you can become successful in life and you can be happy and things like that. So study results in fulfilling the need for a demand, isn't it? So avidya does not produce any or does not create any object. Avidya gives the knowledge. Not only it gives the knowledge, but avidya at best removes avidya. Sorry, vidya. Yes, study knowledge at best removes avidya and it does not create. So now, if vidya is required to what is called remove the pain, pain must be avidyaka. Pain must be avidyaka. That's why Upanishads speak of vidya. Ya vidya sa vimuktiye. That is knowledge which remove, which is, gives one's vimukti. So this dehat vimukti, this attachment should be removed. So that can, how it can happen? If you get the permanent knowledge, if you get the knowledge of a permanent object, this can be permanent object. What can be the permanent object? Because Upanishad gives two definitions, two character, I mean two informations. Ato anyad artham. Apart from this, everything is what is called impermanent. Ato anyad artham. Nothing remains permanent apart from this. That's one thing. Yad alpam tan martyam. What is impermanent? That which is delimited, that which is restricted, that which is small is impermanent. Yad bhuma tato vai sukam. Whatever is bhuma, whatever is infinite, bhuma is infinite. Whatever is infinite, that is pleasure. So infinite is pleasure, limited is painful, limited is non-eternal, limited is destructible, limited is perishable. So it has been these three quotations. Ato anyadartham, yad alpam tanmartyam, bhuma vai sukam. So these things clearly give you an idea that infinite alone is eternal and permanent and pleasure, not other things. So api vyapakatvat. The word vyapaka means all pervasive. Api vyapakatvat. Since this Atman happens to be vyapaka, hitatva prayoga. Whatever is vyapaka, that is hita. That is good for people, good for the seeker of truth, good for the spiritual aspirant. A king has helped Indra, and then Indra wanted to give him a boon, and he asked him generally, "What do you want? Whatever you want, I will. Because you have helped me, whatever you want, you can take it." And then the king did not ask anything. He simply asked him, "Tadeva me bruhi yad manushyaya tvam hitatamam manyase." He give unto me that instruction which you consider the most helpful or the good, the best thing for the people. Give me that instruction of that thing, by learning which people will not suffer later. People should not suffer later, which should be the best thing, which they will not lose. Everything else they will lose. The things will continue with them. They will have those things only for limited time. They will have those things only for limited time. After that, what happens? That is everything which comes into existence, with our effort. Whatever comes into existence with our effort, they can last as long as the effort, the nature of the effort remains. as long as the power of the effort remains. So once the power of effort is lost, the thing also will go out of existence. Say, for example, now we weave a dhoti. When we weave a dhoti, we weave a dhoti with the twines, with the warp and weft. We just what is called the wood, that is the crosswise and lengthwise twines. They we attach together. How strong the twine is there, how strong it is weaved, depending on that strength, the what is called the weave may last. After some time, what happens? Maybe when they are continuously exposed to sun, light, wind, etc., what happens? Slowly, the power of cotton, which are what is called brought together to make into a twine, they become loosened, and then slowly the night they become what is called torn off, because they cannot last long. With the power, how much of what is called the strength we have added to the twine, that alone can remain. But the strength is not eternal, the strength is not permanent. In the same way, every object whose particles are brought together, whose the cause of the object is the particles are brought together, but the particles slowly give way, they become loosened. Once they get loosened, it is slowly give way, and then the object is broken, or object is torn, or object is lost, or object perish, in whatever way you call it. Depending on the nature of the object, you give the name of destruction, you particular game. If it is vegetable, etc., you say perish. If it is cloth, you say torn. If it is part another object, the very what is called a hard objects, you say broken. But everything means they are destroyed, they are lost. Only that much, isn't it? So everything, anything and everything is going to last only for a given period of time. Afterwards, they lose. We don't have permanent value. So we must have something permanent, and that should also be good, not just because it is permanent. There is no use in what is called go on collecting things here. Then we will be losing our movement space. So hitatamam, what is the most useful for the people, like that. So Indra gives him the knowledge of Atman. He says, when this knowledge of Atman is there, we are not affected individually, and we are not bound by our karma, because we get differentiated from our individual personality, that is mind, etc., and we are not responsible for our karma. That knowledge is there. That's how he goes on describing how he has done, how he is not bound by, how he is not tainted and touched by any of the karmas, etc. He just dispenses justice. He uses the word, as a king, I have to do certain things. Sometimes I may have to do harsh things, but even when I do harsh things, I am not bound by them. I dispense justice for the sake of, for the good of all, or for maintaining law, like that. He says that, and he gives what is that hitatama. That is Atma Jnana. Why? Swata Siddha Bhavat. This Atma becomes Vyapaka, not only Vyapaka, it is not only Hitatama, because it is Swata Siddha Bhava. Swata Siddha Bhava means it is self-existing. It is not depending on other things. When something, I said, when you have to differentiate something, the different is not only a Vedaka Dharma, Ananyadhina Sthitikatva. That is not depending on something other, some other thing for its existence. If it depends on some other thing for its existence, it can exist as long as the other thing exists. Or cause of anything, and it is not what is called a produced also caused by anything. So it is totally really Ananyadhina. That is Swadasiddha. This is the question posed to Janaka, where it is where it stands. And then in the Janaka Sabha, the one of the sages answered, Sve Mahim Niti. It stands on its own glory, on its own self. It does not stand on anything else. It is self-supported. It stands on that. So Athava Mahim Niti, it does not require anything to stand, because it is all pervasive. Only when it is less pervasive, it needs something else to support it. When something is all pervasive, it does not require, it does not need any other thing to support it. So Swata Siddha Bhavat. And that's why Ananyasrayatvat. It is in that particular thing, it is said Swata Siddha, hence Ananyasraya. But here Ananyasraya means not as cause and effect. So since it is not cause and effect, it is Ananyasraya. So now what happens? It is called when such a thing were to be there. If a thing were to be Vyapaka, so Bhuma, Vyapaka means Bhuma, Bhuma vai Sukham. Bhuma is bliss. Infinite, all pervasive is bliss. That has been described. Swata Siddha. When something is Swata Siddha, it does not depend on anything else. It does not require something for its existence. And it does not require anything for its knowledge. Swaprakasa. So this being Swaprakasa and Swata Siddha, it is also what is called happiness. It should be bliss. And Ananyasraya. Ananyasraya means not depending on anything, not existing on anything. So all these characteristics give, this is the bliss. All these characteristics give the information, this cannot be pain and this cannot undergo suffering at any situation. This cannot undergo situation at any situation. It is not just pleasure personified, it is not just bliss personified, but it is bliss itself. So it is bliss itself. It is not something in a negative way. It is the bliss one, and hence it is hitatva prayoga. It is the most hitatama. It is the most hitatama. Hence hitatva. That's why it is become niratisaya sukha. Niratisaya means, see, generally in the Kathopanishad, it has been, every Upanishad start in a particular way, every Upanishad present it in a particular way. The Kathopanishad presents life, the life of Brahmagyana, or the path to Brahmagyana. We have got two margas, two ways it starts. There are many ways. Many ways means I don't say many ways for Brahman, etc. Not from that. For every human being, there are what is called, you can choose any one of these two ways, not other ways. There is what is called Jaya Somriya Sweti Tritiyam Sthanam. There is a third way also. They said there is a third way also. But the other ways are not the spiritual ways. Remember, other here, when Upanishad starts two ways, it does not say there is two way only. For spiritual progress, basically there are two ways. Other ways don't bring you near the spiritual way. That goes, you take you in their own ways and you go your own way. That is, you live in the what is called the most materialistic way, like that. But here, spiritual way means if you are, you can choose among the spiritual ways, you can go what is called in the worldly way, participating in the worldly activities in the worldly way, still you can be spiritual. And the other one is renunciate way. You can renounce the world and then you can participate in the spiritual way. So one is participatory way in worldly activities, and then another one is a renunciate way. The renunciate way is called Nivritti Marga, where you renounce everything. Everything means in the Vedic parlance, it is responsibility. Every human being born in this world are born with certain responsibilities. The Upanishad says there are 4 responsibilities given to us. 4 responsibilities. Everyone, say the word, we have to read the Brihadaranyaka. Brihadaranyaka says, Jayamanohavai Brahmanaha. Brahmanaha means Brahma Bubushuhu, one who has got spiritual inclination. That is spiritually one who is developing, that particular person. First of all, he must recognize, as in Buddhism or Jainism, as in any religion. First of all, he must have certain recognition. That is, the world is pain. Not only the world is pain, the world not only gives us pain, but what is the cause of the pain, etc. Samsaram, samsara karanam, all these things we have to realize. That is one thing. The second thing is, our life, we are indebted to so many people. Even though we have come to this world, our life is not totally free, in the sense we cannot independently, individually live. We live depend, everything is a cycle. Everything we depend on something else. If everybody properly works, including we, if everything work there, carry on their activities, everybody can be happy. So if I have to be happy, all the people have to do their works. And if they have to be happy, I have to do my work properly. So everything is cycle, everything jointly work. It is a cooperative movement. World is a cooperative movement, not independently. So what we require, first of all, we require knowledge. Knowledge is not suddenly produced by us. Knowledge is given to us by our earlier people. Earlier people means not only just the previous generation. From so many, it starts from the person who has found out what is fire, what is wheel, everything from that. So we must be able to thankfully and gratefully remember everything. We must be thankful to them, and we are not going to reinvent wheel. If we start reinventing wheel, everyone, if they start reinventing wheel, world cannot proceed at all. So all what is called inventions start from what previous people have done. So we must be humble to say what I am doing is an attempt to progress further, an attempt to develop further. So it is study properly, understand properly, and take it to the next generation. So we must try to remember it. We must try to pass it on. It is called the Rishirana. Those people who have passed it on, we don't see them, we don't know their name, we do not know them individually. So here are all those who have given us the knowledge. Rishi, they are called those who have seen the knowledge, Rishirana. And then, of course, definitely our physical ancestors. And then the society, that is the God who is helping us. We must be grateful to the God, we must be grateful to the elders, we must be grateful to our ancestors. Not only that, we must be grateful to the society also. It is called Manushya Rina. Manushya Rina means our indebtedness to people around us, our indebtedness to the society. That is, only if everybody is hygienic, there won't be problem of mosquito and other squalor and things like that. So we also are bound to be hygienic. Hygiene is only one way. Now you might have seen so many WhatsApp messages during this what is called this corona pandemic, how important the hygiene is, like that. So in this way, we have to maintain for the sake of everybody and for our own sake. One for all and all for one. That is the concept. That is Manushya. Also, we must do some good work, some service to society. Not only our work, not only our work for earning, but some service also must be rendered. The service must be rendered is called Manushya. So the Upanishads and Brahmanas and other things, they give this particular idea also. Say, for example, let us look at the Taittiriya Upanishad. The Taittiriya Upanishad, when it speaks of Jivan Mukti, after the Jivan Mukti, it speaks Annam Bahukurvita, Annam na Nindya, Annam na Parichakshita. You have to produce more, because say when you say Annamaya Kosa, and when Annamaya Kosa gives rise to Pranamaya Kosa, it is not simply physical body. It is Brahman which has taken the form of physical universe. So it is Brahman. So Anna Bhavapanna Brahma, Prana Bhavapanna Brahma. At every step the God is there. At every step it is God taking that particular form. So the respect should be there. So food must be respected. Food should not be discarded. Food should not be wasted. Food must be produced more. Everybody is involved in one particular way. So this sort of need for society, meeting the need for society alone can help us progress in spiritual way. So now when we take what is called Nivritti Marga, means we are asking, we are what is called asking the permission of the university to permit us to be free. So that is freed from responsibility. This sort of what is called Marga, that is Nivritti Marga and Pravritti Marga. Both Margas are where we are not having pain because we are inferior to others. We stand on our own level where there is absolutely no comparison at all. This sort of narrative, this is incomparable bliss. Incomparable bliss means not in the superiority sense. It totally stands out as in deep sleep. That's why God has given deep sleep as an example for us. So this Niratisaya Sukha that is being experienced, when that is experienced, because when all these things are there, all these 8 verses which are given, and then Vyapakatva, Swatasiddhatva, Ananyasrayatva are there. This experience, Niratisaya Sukha is experienced, which is called in other words, Jivan Mukti. The last class also I said Jivan Mukti. Why Jivan Mukti? No other philosopher proposes the concept of Jivan Mukti. In Advaita alone, this Jivan Mukti concept is there. Jnana Raksha. That is this sort of knowledge is possible, this sort of realizing the individual self here in this world now itself is possible. In order to prove that the Jivan Mukta concept is there, we can understand such and such people exist. And through them, because when we get the instruction from them, it will be easier for people to realize their own selves. So this particular thing, if Jivan Mukta were to be there, what will happen? This Jivan Mukta, sees the world. Jivan Mukta means one who is living in the world. As the famous quotation, he is in the world but not of the world. So that is the release in the embodied state. What will be his relationship with the world? The relationship with the world, he will be seeing the world, no doubt about it, but seeing the world, yet he is not what is called affected by the world. So till prarabdha paryantam, dvaita bhanepi na bhanam. Even though he sees the duality, yet he is not affected. We know sometimes from the distance we see the tree has fallen and the tree is seen upside down. But immediately we recognize there is a water and the tree just appears as an upside down. That's why tree appears as fallen, but the tree is not fallen. Tree exists. We see it from the distance. And sometimes when there is a disease, we don't see things properly. Once we recognize it is due to the effect of disease, then we are not bothered about it. So even though the appearance don't cease to exist, still we are not bothered about such appearances because we know the cause of those appearances. Like that, even though we see the world, we are not bothered because we see the cause, it is due to avidya, and we are not bothered by it. We know all these things due to illusion, due to appearance. So we are not bothered, we are not disturbed. Even though things seem to affect us, things seem to disturb us, even though we we are disturbed, yet we are not really disturbed. We are not really disturbed. So what happens? Dvaita bhanepi na dvaita bhanam. Even though world appears to us, hence it is not disturbing duality to us. We know we are away from it. That's why Anyat Samastam Jagat, all the other world, that is the world other than Brahman, Tucham, it appears to be Tucham. So him, to whom after the knowledge world appears as Tucham, non-existing illusion, and that one is Ekaha Avasishtaha Siva Kevaloham. That one is my me, he said. Now he concludes, Acharya concludes, sorry, Api Vyapakatva, Hitatva Prayoga, Swatasiddha Bhava, Ananyasrayatvat, Jagattucha Metat, Samastam Tadanyate, Tadeko Vasishta Shiva Kevaloham. Now the question, Nachaikam Tadanyat Vitiyam Kutasya, Nava Kevalatvam, Nacha Kevalatvam, Nasunyam, Nacha Sunyam Advaita Katva, Khatam Sarva Vedanta Siddham Bravimi. This is also presented as Katham Sarva Vedanta Saram Bravimi. That also there are two readings. One is Vedanta Siddham, that is established by Vedanta, and another Vedanta Sara, the essence of Vedanta. Always the question, if Atman were to be like this, how can you present this particular Atman to somebody? How will you present this particular Atman? So why happens these questions? Ekam. If you say Atman is Ekam, Ekam means one. The question of association with a numerical comes only when there is a possibility of other numericals. Only if something can be, a second can be there, you can say second is not there, hence it is one. So when you propose the second, whether it is existing or logically existing, non-existing, whatever it may be, that sort of talk, unless that second proposal is there, you cannot speak of one. So how can you speak of this as one? They say the question is, he now remember the Purva is not asking Shankara, how can you describe, how can it be presented, whether the presentation is possible, etc. It is not asked from that angle. Shankara says all the characteristic he has presented. What are the characteristic of world? What are the characteristic of Brahman, etc. Now, if the Brahman were to be presented with such and such characteristics, Ekaha, Avasishtaha, Shivaha, Kevalaha. So, at least minimum 4 characteristic. Ekaha, Avashishtaha, Shivaha, Kevalaha. If you have to say all these things, Ekaha, Avashishtaha, Shivaha, Kevalaha, how can you say Ekaha? Unless if the second one is there, you cannot use the word Ekaha. So that is not possible. That's one thing. And then Avashishtaha, that is Ekam Tada Anyad Dvitiyam Kutasyat. So if it were to be second, you cannot have the second at all. When there is no second at all, how can you say Avashishtaha? Only when there is a second is there, you can speak of Avashishtaha. And then Shivaha. If there is a second one, and then if there is an Amangala, then to differentiate that Amangala, you can use the word Mangalaha, Shivaha, that can be used. And then if the second is there, you can say Kevalaha, all these things. Again, the same thing. Only if another thing, possible proposal is there, this sort of description is there. When the second possibility itself is not there, how can you differentiate it? How can you present it? So this thing is beyond description at all, beyond presentation at all. Problem is, if you don't present it, the existence of such a thing can never be presented at all. So the question of knowing it and working towards it and attempting to become a Jivan Mukta, etc., itself will not arise. So the whole question of Advaita itself becomes redundant. So that answer, this has been discussed in the Taittiriya Upanishad, Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. In the explanation of that passage, this has been attempted. He is not taking it as an answer, but whether Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, can these three things be taken as the adjectives? Say whether Jnanam refers to, remember, Sanskrit grammatically, Jnanam is referred to, there are two ways. Jnanam is a characteristic, and one who has got that Jnanam is called Jnani. So one who has got Jnanam is Jnani. If Brahman were to be defined as Jnani, that means Brahman has got Jnanam as its characteristic. So it is Visheshna Visheshya Bhava. So Brahman becomes characterized. If Jnanam, that is a mere characteristic. Knowledge is mere adjective, a characteristic. A characteristic cannot exist on its own. It has to exist on a substrate. It requires a matter. A property cannot exist on its own. A property needs a substrate. So property is Anyashraya. Property is Anyashraya. Property cannot be Ananyashraya. So what is the nature of Jnanam? Is it a property or is it a matter? It can't be a matter. It has to be a property. So this problem comes, and this problem is taken up in a different way. That is, in a different way means, say, Jnanam has got two types of Jnanam. What these people call it Jnanam, it is Vrittik Jnanam. It is not mere Jnanam. It is Vrittik Jnanam. Being a Vrittik Jnanam is information. Information means it depends on so many factors like instruments, etc. And Vrittik Jnanam will always, Vrittik Jnanam will always be Palavyapaka. It will not be Vritti Vyapaka. But this Jnanam does not require anything. If at all it requires Vritti Vyapaka only, not Pala Vyapaka. Hence, it is not known as an object. That's why all Pramanas, even before Shankara, there was many people, Advaitins existed. There was one Vakyakara, a person who has written a commentary on Chandogya Upanishad. It is called Chandogya Vaka. Some of the Vakyas quotations alone are available. His work is not available. He uses the word Siddhantu Nivartakatvat. That is a statement from him. Nivartaka means by refraining, by moving away. The Pramanas operate in the sphere of negation, not in the sphere of proposal. So Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma conscience. So in this way, they don't propose a characteristic. Hence, the question of property independently existing or non-existing, etc., does not arise. Since it is not there, it is not shunyam. The question of kavalatva, etc., all these characteristics, it does not arise. So you cannot say nava kavalatvam, nacha kavalatvam. You cannot say it is alone because it is only what comes to our mind. What really we get as an intuitive knowledge, that is there. So nacha kavalatvam, na shunyam. Hence, it cannot be considered as a shunya, void, because when everything is negated, you cannot call it shunya, nacha shunyam. It cannot be a shunya also because it is advaitaka, it is substrate. Since it is a substrate, it is not a shunya also. By negating all the object, it does not become shunya, void, and it is not what is called non-void because it is Advaita substrate. So how can this be explained? These are used because loka vyavahara. When we have to communicate through shabda, the limitations shabda make us force us to use these words. The limitations of shabda, the limitations of understanding. This is K. It is called in Tamil. There is a proverb. Bhuma kanda kanavu. That is, if a dumb person has had a dream, how can he express this dream to others? How can he communicate it to others? There is another proverb also. Sorry to use Tamil, more Tamil here. Kandavar vindilar, vindavar kandilar. Anyone who has got the realized his knowledge, realized his own self, he will not be able to explain it to others. And if others were in the frame of understanding, because they have to be in the frame to understand, all the other people will not be there. Those who are in the frame to understand, they are not going to meet another person. So if they are in the frame to understand, they would not have known it. A known person cannot explain, and a person who needs such understanding, he is not in the spiritual mode at all. Kandavar vindilar, those who have experienced, they cannot explain. Those who are explaining, they have had not knowledge. So the limitations of the language force us to say something, force us within the limitations, within the grammatical rules of the language which you are using. All those things are there. So katam sarva vedanta siddham, that which has been experienced by Vedanta, how can it be said? How can I reveal myself? Oh, teacher, I am that particular person. Please accept me to give me the Mahavakya Upadesha, then make me realize my own self and thus help me. He prays to his teacher. This is how Dasasloki. And thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. I think to the best of ability, I have tried to explain it. Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam. Namami Bhagavad Padam Shankaram Loka Shankaram. I thank my teachers, Professor Bashi Bhavagya Varahur Kalyan Sundar Sastrigal and Professor K. Balasubramania Sastrigal, who have tried to give me some knowledge. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Srinivas. That was excellent oration on what gives us Niratishaya Sukham, Hitatamam. And the in between, whatever that comes to his mind about the Siddhanto Nivartakatva, all those clips of knowledge that you get extra, which comes in between the lecture. I'm sure all of you are immensely benefited. Friends, thus we have come to the close of this 5-day workshop on the Dasasloki. I could not attend all the sessions as these days I have been overburdened with several responsibilities, including that of the Pro-Vice Chancellor, serious responsibilities, of course, the loss of time, because you miss out, which is, as he is beautifully said, which is most beneficial to the human being. But I'm happy that several of you have consistently attended all the sessions and were benefited. I learned from the staff that around 235 participants have participated this session at various points, though not consistently. From the organizer's desk, the single complaint that we have is that everyone could not attend all the sessions, and I'm sure in the next textual study workshop, we should make it up, because this is, as he has said, Guru Runa. And when we try to repay the Guru Runa, we should be all respectful, and we should pay full attention and see to it that we attend all the sessions so that we have a complete knowledge of the text. So this we shall keep in mind in the future concerns. Well, ISSS, as I remind you once again, is not worried about the quantity. How many people have attended is not a concern. The quality is our concern, and therefore probably we are also, well, the directorate has this thinking that probably in future we may limit the number of participants and admit only those serious participants who are willing to participate in all the sessions. But well, that has to be processed, and we will of course collect your opinions as well before we arrive at any decision. So at this point, a word or two would be proper about the school, International School for Sri Shankaracharya Studies. Those who have heard me earlier, please forgive me. This is for those who haven't so far have listened to the vision and mission of the school. This was established some year back in, I think, 2014 by the government of Kerala with its direct funding. And we are committed to promote research and studies. This is a school, and the school is established to promote research and studies in Advaita philosophy and also the allied disciplines that stand close to it. As several times our master has said that, the Purva Paksha is very, very significant to establish the Siddhanta. So unless, these days, if you ask a question to the master student, like, how did Shankara refute, for instance, Buddhism? Well, if he is unaware of the Buddha's positions, he'll not be able to answer in a meaningful position. So it is very essential that we also side by side have a good grasp of what Madhyamakas, for instance, have argued. He has said about the Shunyata just now. So what is the Shunyata position and how it is distinct from Advaita Vedanta? Apparently, very similar kind of philosophy. So it's the case with the Abhidhamma, the larger Abhidhamma, which Vasubandhu, Asanga, and all of them have taught, and also the logical school of Buddhism. So is the case with the other streams of Vedanta and also the post-Shankara Advaita Vedanta. So we are committed to research and studies in all these branches, and also the cultural factors that have been given birth from these thought processes, how it has significantly impacted the culture, particularly of the Dakshinavarta. Therefore, with this mission in our mind, we have envisaged several programs, and some of the programs that we have been organizing are, as some of you have already been participants of this, the monthly study circle, where we read the original text. 2 days back, we have had a text on Brahma Sutra Bhashya, Shastra Yonitvad, the third sutra of Brahma Sutra, has been read by Professor Sachidananda Murthy, where Professor Arindam was chairing the session, and it was so beautiful. As someone was commenting that we didn't know how the time was passed, because the original text is indeed the nectar. And it's very, very unfortunate that we, the senior academics, have failed to take the younger generation to this to the shows of these texts. And this is a humble attempt made by ISSS to bring the youth as well as the old to the shows of this wonderful text. So that is the textual study workshop. And I wish that every one of you participate in this. It's a kind of a satsang where we sit together, read the text together, and discuss. And we also have international lecture series. Just yesterday, we have had an international lecture rendered by Professor William Sweet on Radhakrishnan and his initiation to intercultural philosophies, how Radhakrishnan took Vedanta abroad, across the seas. So we will have international lecture series continued every month, at least till April, and probably after that, we will have it once in 3 months. And the other programs are the textual study that we have had once, and it was a very successful one, and therefore the directorate think that we should repeat this and go to more serious. Not that Dasasloki is not a serious text. He has said, Shankara has said all that he should in these 10 simple shlokas, but nevertheless, we will go to, voluminous texts as well, at least portions of it, in the coming years, and for which we need your suggestions and your support. And yet another program that we plan to organize is Scholar in Residence, where we will invite leading scholars. I mean, we are an international school, so it is open to the whole community of scholars across the globe. So we will invite scholars reputed internationally who work in Indian philosophy, particularly Advaita Vedanta, come here and stay with us for a while and then produce a monograph for us, and which we will be able to publish. And also short-term courses. This is something which ISS has already done. Short-term courses meant for the local community. It would be in Malayalam, where we will render lucid versions of the philosophical text. And these days, everybody seems to be a philosopher. You hear a lot of things about Indian philosophy, at times called Hindu philosophy, and there are several misrepresentations of it. So we thought that it is our responsibility to give an authoritative version of Indian philosophy meant for the public. Something which has already been done, but we will take it up again. And also we plan to sign MOUs with sister concerns for textual studies, for scholar exchange programs, student exchange programs, so on and so forth. We have already raised a beautiful library. All of you are welcome to our school. Please let us know ahead if you plan to visit, so that we can fix your accommodation and the rest. And another thing which we have been successfully undertaking is a Young Philosophers Forum, which is very, very significant. It's called Global Forum for Young Philosophers. We have already completed 1.5 years. It has been funded by Indian Council of Philosophical Research as well. They have their monthly programs, and it is run by the young scholars themselves. We don't have to do anything. It has been very successful. And I am of opinion that whatever we do with the public funding, at least 1/3 of it should go directly for the benefit of the youngsters. And this is what we are targeting. May 15th has been celebrated as Young Philosophers Day, wherein there will be competitions for young scholars below 40, and there will be seminar presentations, and we will award the best presenter with the title Young Philosopher of the Year, and he'll be given a certificate and some award. Some of the future programs that we have in mind is, of course, a journal, an annual, and also internship for students who have completed their masters, and short-term scholar in residence program for those who have, the young professionals who have just completed their doctorate and who are just getting into or getting ready to step into the profession, and also leadership training programs to the younger generation as to how to take it up. It is not only, the only demand is not that you study the text alone. There are several other things that you will have to do. Preparing a platform for scholars to sit together and study is equally demanded. Otherwise, where will they sit? How will they get together? So this kind of leadership initiation, that is also needed for the from the side of the youngsters, and they need some kind of training for that. And ISS is planned to initiate some leadership training programs for the younger generation, and of course, international webinars or seminars if the Omicron doesn't threaten us much. And also the workshops. I see workshops more meaningful than seminars, and publications, of course. And at the close of, these are some of the things that the Directorate of ISS is currently entertain as a future programs. We really look forward for your comments, your participation, and most importantly, your critique in the sense, you know, the distinction between criticism and critique. Critique is something constructive. So if you find that this is not the way, for instance, to organize a textile workshop, for instance, we really invite your suggestions as to how to improve it. So very soon after my talk, you will be distributed a questionnaire consisting of 10 questions. It is not an examination in that sense, but then it is a kind of a ritual that we do after every textual workshop to remind you of what you have heard. No one is going to evaluate you in that fashion, but then please attend these 10 questions. You will be given just 10 minutes for that. We will announce when the time starts once it has been distributed, and then you will be given just 10 minutes, and after that you can submit it. And after that, we will also forward to you the feedback form where we have raised certain questions as to how you evaluate the program and what are the improvements or suggestions that you have, what are the texts that you want ISSS to take up in future, or what are the academic activities that you want ISSS to take it up. Your evaluation, your feedback is very, very significant for us, and mostly your cooperation and constructive engagement with this school. Please do visit our website. It is srishankarastudies.org, and also write to us all your suggestions, your criticisms. You know that we philosophers tribute each other critiquing. That is what Ramanuja's great tribute to Shankara was through his critique, and you know how it has constructively emulated the scholarship of both Advaita and Vishishtadvaita. So once again, I thank you all on behalf of International School for Sri Shankara Studies for having encouraged us, having participated, and having made this textual workshop a grand success. So thank you all. Now over to Dr. Sangamesha, my colleague. He will send you the questions and he'll announce the time, and then you can attend on the questions. Thank you so much. Over to Dr. Sangamesha.
The link is already provided in the chat box. No, just now.
Okay. Now, what is the time?
It is 45.
45. Please send it back by 55.
Okay.
Hope all of you are attending on it. Have you all have opened it successfully? Is there any problem?
No problem. Okay.
Thank you.
Chat box இருக்கு. இல்ல இன்னொரு குறுக்க வராதே.
Your time ends now. Am I right, Dr. Sangameshan?
Yes, madam. If madam, if time permits, we may allow 2-3 persons to share their experience. If time permits.
Oh, yeah. That would be wonderful. So you heard Dr. Sangameshan. Those who want to share their experiences at the workshop, please come forward and speak to us. Is there anyone who is willing to talk?
Yes, madam.
Yes, please. Please be
I am Chandrasekharan from West Mambalam, Chennai. It has been a very enlightening lecture from Dr. Srinivasan. I think I know him personally also because he is from Chennai. And I would like to only thank him because in the previous session, one person from Kaladi asked for a question. That is, child is created with avidya. Why child is created with avidya? And yes, I have conceived my answer to that. And today he has enlightened me that what I made, that was correct. And I would like to say that the very essence of creation itself is avidya. That's what I understood. And then I wanted to express my feelings. But today he has very nicely expounded the things truth to me. And I will really thankful for having participated. To Dr. Srinivasan. And this is a very good session. And it was very enlightening. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to talk to us? Please go ahead.
Hello, I'm Skandita Mukherjee. Can you hear me?
Yeah, sure. Please go ahead.
This is a wonderful workshop, and we have get to know many more things about the Dasasloki and Vedanta philosophy also. And thanks to Professor, and he has explained the Dasasloki in an extremely good way. We have understand the 10 slokas very well. Thank you.
Thank you, dear. Thank you. Anyone else?
One more thing, I'm a PhD scholar from Kolkata, Presidency University.
Thank you, dear. Thank you. Looking forward to our continued cooperation.
Yeah, I am Bhanumati from Coimbatore.
Boliye.
We are blessed to have to give an opportunity for me. I'm very happy to have a class like this wonderful class by the Guruji and all the members of the team members who have taken the pain to and make us understand what it is. So I'm very much thankful, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Is there anyone else?
Namaste, ma'am. I'm Dr. Lalita Sharma from Chenganur. I just wanted to place on record my immense gratitude to Professor Srinivasan, as well as to ISSS and Shrikala ma'am. I am a research scholar in English. I had philosophy only as a subsidiary in my undergrads. But when I saw the message about this workshop, I wanted to join in because it was an opportunity for me to get back to the work that I loved so much. I'm really, really grateful. I attended all the 5 sessions. I benefited immensely, made notes. I look forward to the recordings so that I can revise it. Thank you very much. And looking forward to more sessions. And Shrikala ma'am, a request that if you would please have a session on Vivek Chudamani as well as in one of these coming sessions. Thank you very much.
We'll keep that in mind. Thank you so much. And please visit our website and so that you will know our forthcoming programs. And thank you. Thank you, dear. Anyone else? If not, then Dr. Sangameshan, can you request the participants to fill up the feedback form as well?
Madam, one Mohan is trying to speak something.
Acha. Please.
One Mohan, please unmute your mic. Hello, Dr. Mohan, your mic is mute now. Please unmute.
I suppose he has
Your
something.
sound is not audible, Dr. Mohan. Some problem, I think.
We'll allow
Feedback from, has been given already, madam.
Achha. So
Responses are coming.
yeah, so the feedback form is there in the WhatsApp as well. If you want to fill up the feedback, and now can we permit them to fill up the feedback in 5 minutes, Sangameshan? So can we permit them to fill up the feedback now, taking 5 minutes, because there are hardly 4 or 5 questions. What do you say, Dr. Sangameshan?
Yes, and they can fill within only 5 minutes. Within 5 minutes, they can fill.
Yeah. So please go ahead. You can fill up the feedback form. There are 4 to 5 questions. You can quickly attend them and then finish with it. And then we will have the Mangalacharan and then finish it.
Feedback form. Where is it?
Have you all located the feedback form? You have it in the WhatsApp group as well as in the chat box.
Ma'am,
Yes.
I am Remya, a research scholar, Vedanta department. Very good workshop. Sir is very simply said all the matter in simple way. That's very nice. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, dear.
Good evening, ma'am. This is Madhav from New Delhi. Just want to say a few words.
Aapka naam kya hai? What is your name?
My name is Madhav Gopal.
Madhav. Madhav ji boliye.
Yeah. I loved the sessions by sir, and I just feel lucky that I have a chance to participate in this workshop, though I missed some of them. And I love Advaita Vedanta, so it was indeed a very enlightening and enjoying opportunity for me. And though I have some basic training in Advaita Vedanta, but sir has explained very minutely this time in English, and he's very just in a Pravahmai language he speaks. So that was very energetic and enjoying. So I'm very thankful to Srinivasan sir and to all of you, Srikala Manar ma'am, and all your team, and congratulate you and wish you all a very happy new year. It is an international year, not ours per se. But anyway, I thank you so much, ma'am. And I wish that we will have more opportunity to participate in such seminars, workshops, so that the Indian, these philosophical systems or knowledge systems, they keep on growing and people get the nuanced knowledge of these systems from scholars like Professor Srinivasan. So thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you, Madhuvji. Keep looking at our website so that you'll get to know the forthcoming programs. Do join us. And of course, the success of this textual workshop lie in choosing the right person to deliver the text. And then we were successful. Of course, the directorate has chosen the right person. And our immense gratitude to Professor Srinivasan. And we really look forward for your further cooperation. So I think the time is up. Those who haven't done the feedback can aramse do it later as well, because it is there in your WhatsApp group. Now, Dr. Sangameshan and Dr. Shiba, shall we wind up the session with the Mangalacharya?
Yes, yes, madam.
Sure, ma'am. Professor Srinivas, shall we wind up?
Yes, ma'am.
Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah, Sarve Santu Niramaya, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschid Dukha Bhag Bhaved. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Thank you all. Shubhamastu.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Shubhamastu.
Thank you, members of SSUS.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Srinivas, once again.
Happy New Year all.
Thank you. Wish you all Happy New Year too.
Thank you,
Thank you. Thank you, madam.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, everybody, and wish you Happy New Year to everyone.
Oh, lovely. Thank you all.
Thank you and same.
Thank you. Thank you, dear. Bye-bye.